Hi, I'm Erica Jenak. I'm the COO for Yes Every Kid, and I'm your guest host for the School Choice series, partnering with Jersey First. And you're going to hear from this special series on education from some of the top experts in their field, influencers, and very accomplished individuals to hear more about what's going on in the education freedom, the school choice landscape, both here in New Jersey and elsewhere. And today we have a guest, Ron Bolandi, who's the chairman of the Jersey First EDU board. So, Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And Ron, just share with the viewers here just a little bit about yourself and where you are located.
Sure. I was in the field of education for over 40 years before I retired. And then and at that particular point, 20 some odd years as a superintendent of schools in various places in New Jersey, both in urban and suburban. So I've been able to get a really good look at how urban functions and how suburban functions, and then how the state functions with both of those entities. And then after that, I retired in 2010. I got bored in retirement, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. And I came back and I did a number of interims. So if you look at my total years of experience in this field, understanding New Jersey and understanding how to run school districts, I probably have now about 30 years as a superintendent because I've done about 6 interims since then. And I decided to get involved with Jersey First because I saw their mission, and I really am one of those superintendents who've never been part of the establishment. And I truly believe that we need to start to talk about ways parents can be involved in their education. They have to be engaged, because if they're not engaged, a lot of things that are coming down the pipeline in legislation and mandates from the Department of Education and the legislators are going to affect their children seriously. And in my opinion, not in a good way, in a negative way.
Well, thank you so much, Ron, for joining the program today. And we're talking about public school choice or public access to schools, since it's really the only area of public life or a public good where it's determined by your zip code and therefore a lot of times income as well. As you probably know, there's a lawsuit in New Jersey to end the residential assignment of public schools. So maybe you could talk a little bit, Ron, what is public school choice?
Okay. Um, in New Jersey, it's really kind of unique. I mean, a lot of times you see a lot of things going on in the country, and you look at it and say, "That's a great choice idea." But in New Jersey, there's been a battle. There's no question that public school choice has gone through probably a good 20 to 30-year battle, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it's based on party lines. Who happens to be in power, will dictate whether certain choice programs go through. Unfortunately, New Jersey has never really had a solid alternative for parents, which you could really say is a choice program. In New Jersey, there's only a few ways students can go from one to school to another, either public or, and it's only public, but you can't go from one private to a public, because if you go from public to private, then parents are going to be paying the tuition. I did that with my son. I did not want my son to go to the local public school, and I decided to send my son to a parochial school. Well, that cost me $25,000 a year, whether I liked it or not, and I still was paying taxes in that town, and I got no services. That's the unfortunate part of New Jersey. The choice, and you mentioned it, a lot of times it's by zip code. If you live in quote unquote suburbia or rural, if you will, New Jersey has three programs really, where you can take your child from one public school to another alternative and not have to pay for it. Those three are charter schools. Um, Unfortunately, in New Jersey, you mentioned it in the beginning, most charter schools are in urban settings. So their catchment area is urban children. So if I live where I live, I could not send my child to that charter because that charter normally has a catchment area in that immediate area. Um, and there are very few suburban charter schools. Matter of fact, you hardly see any in the state of New Jersey. Okay. Is there a reason for that? Probably, because it's much easier to get a charter school in urban America, obviously, because one of the things you have to point out is how are you going to make that charter school better for the kids that are going there? And it's pretty easy to do that in urban America because in urban America, most kids are reading 3 and 4 year levels below grade level and doing math the same and writing the same. So that's the first way, charter school. Not necessarily always available to probably 90% of the state. Um, Second way is what New Jersey calls a choice program. Um, this is a unique program that was set up maybe 10 years ago. And school districts can apply to be a choice school, and anybody can apply for those choice seats. Doesn't matter where you live. Um, and if you get it's done by lottery, and there's a certain criteria each school sets up. And then if you meet that school's particular criteria, then you go into a lottery. And if you're picked out of the lottery, then you can go to that school, that choice school. Sounds pretty good. Sounds like it's something that would make sense, but here's the problem. They only allow certain schools to do it, and they only give you a certain amount of students. So when I was helping out Alexandria in Hunterdon County, they were a choice program, small K-8 elementary school, and what you could consider rural. They were only allowed, I think it was 22 slots. So only 22 students could go to that program. I just helped out Englewood in Bergen County, who also had a choice program, and they only had it in high school, and it was 9-12, and they had 261 seats. But that was done because of a desegregation program. So if you wanted to apply to that program, if you were from the area, there was only 261 seats available. So you talk about a wide catchment area of the entire Bergen County, and also going into Hudson County. Think about that, 261 seats. There's only two choice programs in Bergen County, Englewood and Bergenfield. That's it. Out of all the districts, like 70 plus districts in Bergen County, there's only two choice programs. And in Englewood, there's only 261 seats for the entire Hudson Bergen County area. So just think about that. And that's the most dense populated area in the state, by the way. So is that really an alternative? Not really.
No, it's very restrictive,
Yeah,
limited, especially with a population of 9 million people in state.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm thinking of Florida and Arizona that have true access to public schools. So you could send your child to any public school in the
Yep.
state. And Ron, maybe you could walk through, let's take a step back. Why is this important in the first place? So why
Well,
is it important for families to really be in the driver's seat
right.
to make the decisions best for their families?
Well, it goes back to the uniqueness of children. I mean, not every child is going to learn at the same levels. Not every child is gifted in certain areas. So, you as a parent know that most of the time, know that. Um, and you know what benefits your child. So if I'm going to school Y, for argument's sake, um, they might not have the programs you want to send them there for. Um, so it's really important for parents to have an alternative. And I'm not saying in all cases, because let's be honest, in a lot of places, where school districts have excellent reputations, no one's going to leave that school district. So basically, 99% of the people are going to be happy. And even though they might not realize it's not what they think it is, they're still going to be happy. Um, but there are unique situations, and there are many situations in the state. I'll use one as a personal example. Why did I send my child to a parochial school? You know, I did it because of music. My child was very gifted in music. The high school that he would have been assigned to, public high school, had Not a great music program. Matter of fact, an inferior music program. So if I had sent him there, I would have taken his love of music away. So I needed to have a choice. Now, unfortunately, my choice was to pay, which in New Jersey, I don't think that's a fair choice. I should have been able to get a voucher like you talked in Arizona. They have vouchers. So if I they're given a certain amount of money and they take the voucher and they go to a public school and then they're off and running. Um, in New Jersey, voucher programs have been I'm going to be honest with you, in 40 years in the field, I have never seen that even getting close to being passed, because obviously everybody's against it politically and depending on the political power at the time. And also a lot of times unions are against it. A lot of times even some parent groups are against it. So um, that's the way to go. But unfortunately, in New Jersey, we've never got there. And just to throw one more thing in, the other disadvantage, and which is the thing that this is why parents have to be educated, especially when you talk about choice programs in New Jersey. Um, a lot of times parents go in and accept the choice program, and then it comes now, how do you get the kid to the school? Because in a choice program in New Jersey, even though that's funded by the state of New Jersey, they don't fund the transportation. So as a parent, if you go to a choice program in New Jersey, which is going from one public to another, transportation is on you. So think about that for a minute. If I get a choice program, which is 10 miles from my house or 15 miles from my house, it's on me to get my kid there every day. That's totally unfair, by the way, because in charter schools, transportation is paid for by the state. Children are transported to a charter school. The other program that's considered choice in New Jersey, but it's not really because vocational programs run high-tech high schools and they run vocational programs. You as a parent can apply for that. If you get accepted, by the way, acceptance are minimal too, by the way, because there's usually only one vocational in each county, or maybe 2 or 3 schools in each county, but that's it. You get transported. So the real choice program in New Jersey, you don't get transported. And that's tough for parents because, as you know, if you have working parents and now you say to a parent, if you go to this choice program, you got to transport your child. I've seen programs where students have been accepted. Englewood's a prime example of that. Students have been accepted to the choice program and they live in Fairview or they live in North Bergen. And now there's no way to get to Englewood and they have to drop out. How fair is that? We're creating a false sense of choice. And now a student drops out because they cannot get there. That's a problem.
Yeah, and it may be a function of how limited the choice programs are here.
Mhm.
Other states are seeing even private sector solutions like Hop, Skip, Drive
Mhm.
and others. And especially for public school choice, the ability, maybe a parent works closer to a different public school, or the child may be zoned for a public school and another one's technically closer.
Mhm.
There's obviously all different reasons, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the impact of the limited programs that you've mentioned. What are some of those positives? Has it really meant for families?
Well, what it does a lot of times, and um, it becomes an income thing. It becomes an income solution, if you will. Um, because so what it does for families is if I have that particular child that for some reason in that elementary or middle or high school that I am slated to go to in the community I live, and you as a parent recognize that alternative might not be the best alternative, the impact that has on families is you only really have a couple of choices. I mean, the choice is go there and do the best you can to try to make it work, which I'm going to tell you most of the time doesn't work. Um, then the other alternative is to figure out how you come up with the money to pay for your child to go to a private or a parochial. And that's a tough choice because that's an income choice. I mean, if do you have that kind of money to say I'll pay tuition and I'll figure a way to get them there, knowing that I'm not getting anything back from the state. The only thing I get back from the state is $1,000 for transportation costs. Think about that, $1,000. That's it.
So, Ron, thinking about the why is it important for families to be in the driver's seat of the decisions of how their children are educated and what those educational experiences look like? Can you share why would this be so important to make a change in New Jersey?
Uh, I there's no question that there's always a number of parents in any school district where they reside that their children, for some reason or other, might not be successful in that particular school district. Um, there's nothing wrong admitting that. There's nothing wrong as a school district to admit that, and there's nothing wrong for parents to say that. But in New Jersey, if that's a decision that you come up with, your options are so limited. Um, a lot of times you have no option. So now I believe this is an important piece in New Jersey, because what are you saying to those group of children and parents about, we push public education, we say that publication is the way to go, um, but we don't make it available at the level for all students. So if I have a student that needs certain things and that particular school district doesn't have it, why wouldn't I have an option to go to another? One of the things about funding, which is interesting, and this is the misconception, is that um, if I go from one school district to another, then I'm going to lose state aid, or I'm going to lose this, or I'm going to lose certain income that's coming into that district. But if you went to a voucher system, that's not true, because the voucher would pay for the student to go to that school. So going to that school wouldn't create more of a problem. A lot of times school districts will say, oh, well, if we create vouchers, we'll never know how many students we have. We'll never know how much staffing we're going to need. It could blow our budget out. Well, you know what? There's ways to do that. There's ways to say, okay, each district accepts 50 vouchers, whatever. There's ways to make it work if you want it to work. In New Jersey, I have never felt, all the years I've been doing this, that New Jersey ever really wants public school choice to work. I think it's given parents lip service. So, if you call the Department of Education today and you talked about choice, they would tell you, oh, we got this wonderful choice program. Go on the website. There's probably 90 some odd districts in the state that have choice. Okay, there's 600 districts in the state of New Jersey. There's not 90. The 90 is a drop in a bucket. So I believe it becomes more of parents rising up and saying, look, to the local legislators, because that's where it comes from, by the way. If to make this change, it has to be a legislative change. So it's not going to come from the Department of Education. It's not going to come from your local school district. So if you go to local board meetings and complain, there's nothing they can do. If you go to the Department of Education and complain, nothing they're going to do. This has got to be a legislative change. And I believe lots of groups in New Jersey, hopefully these groups that are starting to look at education and starting to look at parent involvement, start to talk to legislators about saying, hey, look, it's time you change the law. It's time you put either voucher or more extensive choice in the law, and make sure that you legislate it, because if it's not legislated, it's never going to happen.
Well, you make a really good point, Ron, that there's not real public school choice here. There's still very much boundaries and zoning. By the way, the map for current school districts, it overlays very old redlining, very discriminatory practices of long ago. And I think that's part of why there is an existing lawsuit right now to end residential assignment of public schools. There's pretty broad support. It's supported by the NAACP, Latino Action Network, the United Methodist Church. And then, there's free market conservatives and parents across the whole spectrum who would be very supportive of this type of thing. So Ron, you mentioned reaching out to local legislators. How should parents get involved here? What does that look like for Jersey First and being really able to make an impact?
Well, I think it's the organizational piece of it. An organization like, and this is the reason that I got involved with Jersey First. I think, and I've said this, from day one, no matter what issue you're going to tackle, and we're talking about choice today. Um, that's a legislative solution. Okay. And that's real important to know that it's not a local decision. It's not a local solution. So organizations like Jersey First really have to band together with other organizations and get in the legislator's ear. I mean, and make sure they get in both Democratic and Republican, because a lot of times the issues are looked at along party lines. But parent involvement, parent access is not Democratic and not Republican. It's neither. It's you could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican, you could be an independent, and getting access is the same for you. And it's parents need to understand that we need to get to legislators and meet with them and have a meeting like we're having now. We're having a taping, but how about a meeting and sitting down with a group of legislators, bipartisan, hopefully, and saying, hey, let me explain why voucher choice is important. Let's have a conversation about it. And I like being a part of that conversation because I'm sitting there with 40 years in the trenches saying to people, no, that's not true. That there's a way to, how sometimes people who are against something put up walls that are really not solid walls. They just put up, they're kind of like facades. They put up something and it sounds sensible. It sounds like it's real. And it's really not. Like I just said to you, when someone says, oh, if you put vouchers, you're going to ruin you're going to ruin our staffing, you're going to ruin our finances. That's not true. That's absolutely, but that's what they'll say. That's the first thing they'll say. But that's not true, because someone like me can say, no, that's not true. It's not going to affect the budget. If you give me a $10,000 voucher and I take 50 kids, that's not going to change my class size. 50 kids, 100 kids. I was a superintendent in districts of 13 and 17,000 kids. If I took a 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, maybe 500 kids in a voucher system, wouldn't affect my staffing at all. So that's the problem. You really got to get to the legislators and because what happens is that you have the opposing forces getting to them. So, and you know how politics are, who's ever, giving campaign contributions, whoever's doing this, they're going to listen to, and a lot of times parents are not, they might give it individually, but parents need to stick together. And when we stick together, we need to stick together on the mission of, we got to do this legislatively. We have to do this professionally. We can't go and scream and yell and all that stuff. It just doesn't work. You got to go with a methodical approach to saying to people, here's really how this benefits the children and the parents of New Jersey. And parents need to be an active participant in their child's education. You can't be a passive participant, because if you're going to be a passive participant, then shame on you, because when you turn around, you could affect your child in a very adverse way.
Well, Ron, it sounds like this goes far beyond vouchers, and other states have done this. New Jersey doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, where there's other funding mechanisms, right? There's education savings accounts. There's open enrollment in states, right? Sometimes I think vouchers can be a politicized word, but
Right.
it's time for New Jersey to end the lines. There's pretty broad political support. So definitely looking forward to the viewers here who have, maybe this message has resonated with them, reaching out to Jersey First, getting involved. And Ron, we thank you for your time today. Really appreciate the conversation and look forward to chatting in the future.
My pleasure. Look forward to doing a few more of this, because I think this is really what parents need. They need a vehicle to hear how they could become actively involved and, again, be active participants in their child's education. That's so important.
Thank you, Ron. And we're signing off. This is the Jersey First TV School Choice Series. My name's Erica Jennack. I'm a guest host. I'm with Yes Every Kid, and we're signing off. We're here with Ron Bolandi, chairman of the Jersey First EDU Advisory Board, and we will have more in the series to come. Take care.